Thank you all for joining us in this panel discussion today, where we'll be discussing how to get started with AI in radiology. So today we have quite a broad panel. We're representing multiple different AI partners, and also, of course, Andy from Milton Keynes. So we'll just start by doing a round of introductions. So I'm Jamie. I'm the clinical lead at Blackford, where I've been working for 2 years now. Prior to joining Blackford, I was a radiologist in the NHS.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Andy Scott, Imaging IT Systems Manager, Milton Keynes Hospital. I'm a diagnostic radiographer by background, and I've been working in the NHS for about the past 11 years.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mike Gloutney. I'm a Director of Product Management here at Intelerad. I've been with the company for over 16 years.
Hi, everyone. I'm Divya. I'm the Chief Growth Officer for Qure. I've been in the industry for about 14 years, spent about a decade with Philips in the medical informatics segment. And I joined Qure earlier this year and really excited to have this discussion.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Cecile. I'm the marketing manager at Gleamer. We are an AI producer company, and we are in clinical use at Milton Keynes with our algorithm BondView.
Awesome. Thank you. Now, in terms of what we will cover in the webinar today, it's really geared towards an educational session, and it's mostly centered towards the UK market and the NHS in particular. So what we'll cover is things like why AI and what can it do, forming an AI steering committee. So really that whole piece about AI governance, evaluating and selecting best fit AI solutions, adoption of AI in the NHS, and then perhaps some tips on how audience members or anyone interested in AI can get started. So with that being said then, a lot of these questions will be at Andy, but I would just like to probably just give a bit of context as well, just because we've introduced and there's quite a few different names and different vendors and different partners here of how everything ties together. So Blackford itself is a UK-based AI platform which integrates with multiple AI applications and has channel partnerships with multiple PaaS companies. Blackford is partnered with both Qure and also Gleamer, so we're contracted and we're also integrated with these applications. Being a channel partner with Intelerad means that we also deploy to Intelerad customers. So if you're using an Intelerad or Insignia in the UK, you can have access to the Blackford platform and therefore access to Gleamer and Qure applications as well. So that's how things tie together. We're all working together on these deployments, and it should be all seamless for the healthcare provider. Now, with that being said, we'll just start with you, Andy, if that's okay. Do you mind describing for us what your use case for adoption of AI was?
So with Gleamer and Qure, we were trying to target a specific clinical area, which is our emergency department. So they were dealing with two factors really, but we're a medium-sized district general hospital in the Midlands. And due to our size, there are discrepancies in cover between in-hours and out-of-hours. So the most senior clinicians tend to work during the day, and we tend to be junior clinicians or indeed locums or outsourced clinicians can end up covering the night shifts, etc. In terms of radiology as well, our CT head reporting, etc., is carried out for us by an external company. So there are two pain points we're trying to address there. We had an issue where patients who had attended the A&E department out of hours had a high rate of recall for missed fractures due to, it could be a number of things. It could be, again, junior staff or just the fact they're trying to interpret x-rays in the middle of the night when no one's functioning at their best. The same on the radiography side, where we have our radiographers' red dot images to flag potential fractures or issues to our consultants. During the day, these tend to be our more senior clinicians, or senior radiographers, and out of hours it can be band fives who are still learning their trade and still getting to that high level of accuracy that we have from, say, our reporting radiographers. So we wanted to address that issue of patients being sent home with fractures and having to be recalled later, because that's not in the best interest of the patient, and also it wastes a lot of clinician time trying to get in touch with these patients. And then for our CTs, because there is a delay between the scan being performed and us receiving a report back from the reporting radiologists, that's a lot of time that the patients are sat there in A&E where no decisions can be made about what happens next for them. So we wanted to try and speed this up because, again, A&E, particularly out of hours, is under a lot of pressure at the minute. Across, Milton Keynes is no different from the rest of the country. They're being hammered at the minute. So, yeah, we felt this was an area where some AI could really be of help. And if we integrated it well, really solve some problems.
Okay, that all makes sense. It sounds very familiar in the NHS. Do you mind just talking us through how you kind of started choosing how you would procure AI and go about that route, and in particular, why you chose to do this through Insignia or Intelerad?
Okay, there are a lot of obstacles to AI adoption, whether that's financial or governance, procurement, IT, etc., etc., etc. With Blackford, we were able to procure the platform and the AI algorithms through our existing contracts and agreements with Insignia/Intelerad. So, for one, it meant we had a compliant route to procurement. This is something that is quite a common issue with trying to purchase AI. There are rules across the NHS. We have our standing financial instructions about how you have to purchase certain technologies or medical devices. You have to purchase them through NHS frameworks, etc. And it's a very new area for AI, and AI companies are all approaching it a different way. It's quite tricky, but this gave us a nice compliant route to procure this Blackford system and also the algorithms that are available on it. And it also gave us a lot of reassurance in terms of that this would work. We've been working with Insignia and their associate partners for many years now. A very good system. We've got great confidence in them as a company. And it was very reassuring to the exec team, IT, etc., that we were just expanding our existing partnership rather than starting off a completely new venture.
Okay. And Mike, do you see that this is quite common whereby you have a lot of customers within your install base where they're trying to access AI and their first protocol might be to speak to their PaaS company to see what offerings they have and if they can do it that way?
Yeah, I think one thing that can be said is there are a lot of different AIs out there, and it can be a bit overwhelming. For the case of Andy, at least it was already narrowed down to a specific subset of findings they were looking to solve. So certainly being able to direct our customers toward Blackford Platform that allows them to have access to a curated list of AI is really the big benefit that we see in using Blackford as a platform to provide AI. So certainly a problem that everyone has and that we've been able to solve with this great partnership.
Okay. And I just want to discuss as well about kind of governance around AI. As we all know, AI in radiology is still actually very nascent, despite all the noise and all the hype around it as well. I think people are still trying to figure out actually how to adopt it and how to do so safely. So there is more standards developing around governance, around regulations as well. So we're quite interested from a healthcare provider perspective and a departmental perspective. How do you start developing that strategy and going about building an AI committee that helps select AI algorithms, for example, monitor them, evaluate them? So Andy, do you mind just talking us through what that process was like at Milton Keynes? So why you set up a steering committee and how you went about doing that?
So the steering committee was set up initially because, as Mike just mentioned, there are so many different AI algorithms out there. It's a bit daunting to start off with, to look at this huge smorgasbord of options available to you. And it was a very good way of trying to gain focus as to which of these systems we wanted to look at. But the most important aspect for it is it engages with all the key stakeholders right from the start as we go through a process either of evaluating, auditing, or procuring any of the systems. So the committee it contains the medical director of the hospital. It's chaired by the deputy CEO. We have representation from the IT leads, information governance leads, finance leads, and procurement leads, all there. I attend as the regular imaging representative alongside one of our radiologists who has been our AI implementation lead within the department. And then we invite clinicians from all over the trust to attend as well, and often the opportunity to present any systems they've found, anything they want to take a look at, and we can discuss that at once. And it means that once a decision is made, that we want to go with a certain system, etc., everyone who needs to know about it knows about it at that point. So all the concerns of finance can be addressed at that exact point. We can make sure there's compliant routes to procure, etc. IT know that they're going to have to stand up some resources in order to set all these things up. Yeah, everyone is there right from the off, and it makes the whole process a lot smoother.
Okay, yeah, we definitely see even more publications and more examples. So kind of these Pathfinder accounts and Pathfinder healthcare providers such as yourself really provide value in just sharing how you do this and kind of lessons learned from it as well. I just want to talk a bit about the process of evaluating and selecting AI solutions. So I think we've all kind of identified that there are a lot of vendors in the market at the moment and hundreds of actually regulatory cleared applications if you count C and FDA. So actually just finding the one that's most appropriate for your use case is actually very important. So you've identified what the pain point was or what you're trying to solve for. How did you start to look at the vendors and start to narrow it down to say you want to do an evaluation of Gleamer versus another vendor partner who could do something similar?
So you're right. We found this has been a very important piece of work we've had to do when trying to select which AI systems we want to use. They all advertise very high sensitivity, specificity ratings, great case studies, this, that, and the other. But they all seem something we learned over our 3 years working towards actual AI adoption is the case of training bias. So the AI system obviously is only as good as the data it's been trained on. But also this can be skewed by things like patient demographics or just the examining technique, the equipment you're exposing the patient with. So trying to make sure that we get an AI system that works as well as possible on our local data was absolutely key. So the Blackford Platform did really help us with this in particular because we were able to take 3 available CE accredited AI systems for each use case. We submitted a data set of anonymized DICOM data to all of the algorithms to assess. We were then provided with the results, and then we passed that back to our clinicians to do an audit against the ground truth, which is our own local reports. So we took care of the auditing ourselves within the department. It helped with local buy-in to the AI products so they could see for themselves how accurate they were on our data. So yeah, it built some reassurance within our own teams, and it enabled us to say confidently that the algorithms we eventually were going to deploy would perform well on our own local data.
So yeah, so for sure, if I understand well, there is the proving that what we say is true in a kind of way. I think that what is also interesting is that when you are comparing different suppliers, a lot of them will have good results, as you say, but you can also see differences in the way the AI reacts and your preferences. But would you say that it also helps you during this lack of lapse of time to see the extra benefits that today are not maybe proved, such as less recall? Or did you monitor all of that, less recall, less suits?
Yeah, exactly. So before we went live with the adoption, we could only audit the accuracy of the algorithms on our data. Since we've gone live with them, we've had further audits that look at the actual clinical benefits. Are we recalling fewer patients? Are we making decisions quicker in our EPR system, etc.? So clinicians helped both in the run-up to the go live, but also now it's live. We're running ongoing audits and they're gathering that data for us. Some examples have been presented at various conferences around the region over the last sort of 6 months.
I was also going to ask, would you say that in this trial, it was also a way for people to get used to it and do not feel that you are pushing right away an algorithm that they have to deal with, but you give them the choice and to get more confident with them?
Exactly. So, I mean, this is another barrier to AI adoption that's often prevalent. Well, throughout the NHS. It's true of any medical system, to be honest. Nobody wants to feel like they're having these forced upon them. And because we've engaged with our clinicians right from the start and had their involvement and feedback, and they've been auditing these systems for us, they've been very supportive, and that's kind of been key to our success, is that it's had clinician backing, because without that we've got no chance really.
Yeah, they will not even look at the result, I guess. You don't
exactly.
bring them on board. Yeah,
exactly. And again, when it comes up to procuring for long term, etc., it's the clinician backing that's absolutely key. It's all very well a PACS manager saying that AI is great, but
that can be a risky place for a PACS manager if the others don't buy in eventually.
No, exactly.
In a way, if I understand you correctly, Andy, you actually were relying on the Blackford and the Intelerad team for a lot of the hygiene checks when it comes to regulatory clearance, company stability, to be able to enable an easy, an easy evaluation on your end. And on your end, your evaluation was really that does this algorithm work in our patient setting, right? In our patient data setting. So the entire aspect of, you're relying on the basic checks, which was done. So that reduced, in a way, the amount of checks you had to do. The underlying assumption is that because it is on an existing PACS with the marketplace, the workflow will be smooth. And so the remaining element is the clinical outcomes, the training, which is, of course, the next parts which come after the evaluation then.
Yeah, exactly. You've hit the nail on the head. Blackford create a list quite simply. You can filter down to those which meet your required accreditations for use in your particular environment. And once we have the platform, the adoption of all the various systems is very easy.
One thing
to focus on the actual accuracy of it and how it works on our data in our clinical workflows.
Exactly.
Yeah, one aspect of this that's really nice when talking to customers that have adopted the AI is being able to go to one platform to send all the data in and receive results back is a big time saver, instead of having to spin up multiple different platforms or modules for every single algorithm out there. So that's one big benefit of having that one platform.
I would also say that what can be also interesting is that during the trial period, you can also check the support around it, how to understand AI if you have any question. And it's something that I appreciate about working with Blackford, is about how we have a good support team. Each AI producer has a support team because we need to get better and we want to have new versioning. But the partner that we are using, when we have a strong partner like that in partnership, is also the way that they will help us and they will bring up the question and we will support them. So I would say that it's a little bit the behind the scene thing, but which is also important.
Yeah, that's key for us on our side at the hospital as well. We've deployed a handful of AI algorithms now clinically, but I very much see this as the start. This is going to expand rapidly over the coming years. And what we don't want is a list of 30 or 40 different phone numbers and email addresses we have to contact when one specific thing goes wrong. Whereas this way we have one specific route for support that can supervise the whole lot. So it makes things a lot easier on our side too.
I think Mike mentioned this, Jamie mentioned this, that there are so many vendors, so to say, in the space, and new ones coming every year, every month, right? So are you also looking at the company, how long they have been? What is the tip? How far entrenched are they in the NHS, for example? And how comprehensive the portfolio is. To your point, you're starting with fractures and head CTs, but there will be more in the future. So you are looking for something scalable. Was that also somewhere on your mind or discussed in the AI steering group?
I was going to say, if you've hit the nail on the head there. So that's one of the things we've put together at the AI steering group, is we have a framework that has to be completed for any AI system that we want to look at within the department. And that framework takes into account things like the CE marking or any of the various accreditations, DCB, ISO accreditations, etc. But also we look for any case studies, examples of deployment elsewhere in the NHS, examples of it being deployed to our systems. And these are all factors we take into account when we look at what we're going to procure as well.
Got it. Got it. With the whole environment today where, AI the summer was abuzz with AI and discussions on new tenders in the NHS. Are you getting a lot of calls, Andy, on your experience? Because you're leading the way here, right? I would expect that peers are reaching out to you.
Yes, I've stopped looking at my LinkedIn messages now.
So we should thank you.
No, I mean,
But yeah,
it matters, right? Yeah, it matters what peers say.
It does, and it explodes. And it's not just the training bias necessarily, but also the features of each individual system that will work differently for different places. Each trust in the country will have its own individual needs that can be helped by AI. There's no sort of one blanket approach. So two algorithms that seem very similar, one will work much better for one institution than another. So again, it's doing that local analysis is really important.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think that's something that we were really impressed with as well. Kind of how Milton Keynes handled this, and in particular Andy as well. You really seem to have a plan and structure in terms of this is how you're going to evaluate. You had the data set that you wanted to test on, and you even had the reporting radiographers to help with that evaluation as well. And then you actually derive some objective metrics to say, this seems to be performant on my data. Everyone in the space knows that not all AI is generalizable. What works in one hospital might not work in another one due to a number of factors. It could be the patient demographics, could be the scanners, but just doing that local validation check is very important before deployment. So I think that was something that really kind of stuck out for how Milton Keynes did it, and actually it was very impressive to see. In terms of features as well, all vendors are maturing, all AI platforms are maturing as well. So we're always trying to improve and iterate. And what this means is a lot of change that happens. So you'll see new feature sets come out, new regulatory cleared feature sets, and so on and so on, which means that for a healthcare provider, it can be hard to stay on top of. But it also means that it's very important to understand the nuances between what is available and what is actually the product feature set between different vendors and applications as well. So you've looked at the very targeted algorithm metrics, so your accuracy, your sensitivity and specificity. But I think that there are also other factors and other features that differentiate vendors apart as well that might be important to you. Are you able to maybe share on what these particulars were with Gleamer and with Qure, which also led to that decision of why you wanted to go with them?
Yeah, certainly. So with Gleamer, one of the key factors for them was that they were able to be used on a broad range of plain film examinations that we commonly perform, but in particular pediatric examinations. So pediatric x-rays are notoriously difficult to interpret with all the growth plates and trying to remember your cry-toll if you think of elbows. And it was an area that we saw a problem with. We were having pediatric patients being recalled out of hours, or indeed some of them being sent for further CT scans to confirm suspicions, things like that. So the ability to use this AI algorithm across such a huge number of our patients and not being restricted to, say, adults or, only appendicular examinations, that was really a key factor for choosing Gleamer. And for Qure, it was about the accuracy and the very, very high sensitivity rating that we had when we audited the algorithm. So what we're trying to achieve there is that very safe use case where every single traumatic head with an injury gets identified correctly by the AI, because we want those to be prioritized and treated as fast as possible.
Right.
And so having that really, really high accuracy, that was key for picking Qure for this use case.
Andy, out of curiosity, do you also send any head CT scans for teleradiology reporting today?
Exactly. So our out-of-hours radiology reporting is all done by teleradiology. So that then introduces, as accurate as they are, that does introduce a delay from exam being performed to a result appearing in our systems that A&E can work with. Whereas with the AI system, by the time the patient returns to A&E from the scanner, there's already an AI result there that gives them a very strong indication if a patient's got an injury or not.
Right. Fair enough.
I find that what you say is really interesting about there is a features and sometimes there is sub features, if I can say like that, which is not easy to display as a producer, and we cannot wait for partnerships to say everything that we are doing compared to the other ones. But there is always something that I like to say is that if the AI never saw it, it would never be able to detect it. When you get that, it means that we are coming back once again to the trial period when you can really see how it has been trained. Like pediatrics are extremely specific, is specific fractures, and it was a huge work. So thank you very much to train it properly for this specific population. And it's here that you will have a big differences about, okay, did they train it well? Did they get the specificity of this pathology? No matter if we are going outside the fracture, and the trial period is once again the best way to see these slightly feature things that you will not see just with the presentation of what we do.
And I think it's important to iterate as well, is like you do a local validation before a deployment, but it's not a static one-off process. Data can change over time. There can be data drift. You might change your scanner. Your patient population might change as well, which influences the pathology. So all of these can affect model performance long term. So there's a whole area around post-market surveillance and AI monitoring as well, which I think we're still trying to find the best solutions for, but I see it as a collaborative effort. So the healthcare provider and also the AI vendors as well, I think we all have a responsibility to keep monitoring the AI solutions to ensure that they're accurate and providing value. So with that being said, I know that we have plans in terms of how we want to do this, but how does your steering committee go about doing this kind of ongoing auditing and monitoring of AI solutions so that you can flag if there's any change or if suddenly you notice that for whatever reason it might be inaccurate one day?
Sure. So our steering group meets quarterly at the minute, and as well as presentations from clinicians about new systems they want to look at, we also expect the clinical champions for the ones that we already have in place to come and present their ongoing audit findings. So there's going to be that continuous feedback loop over the years.
Understood. Okay. And so it sounds like it's a quarterly basis at the moment, and then anything from there can always be fed back to any of the vendors and any of our AI partners as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Are you seeing other trusts in the imaging network also trying to, get into, because I think you are kind of leading the way here even in your imaging network, but are you seeing others trying to replicate what you're doing at Milton Keynes?
I believe so. I think our network does contain Oxford University hospitals, and they've got a very strong basis in AI themselves. They've been working on developing algorithms for years. They've got a lot of expertise in this area as well. So, and as a network, we are now looking towards whether we can develop a network-wide AI steering group that feeds into our own local steering groups, and we're trying to build that whole governance structure around it. So
right,
instead of just Milton Keynes cracking on with it, we can all pick this up and move forward. But yeah, we're doing presentations at each of the sites to share what learning we've had and what we've been doing. And yeah, everyone seems to be quite keen to pick this up and move forwards, which is great, which is what we want.
Absolutely.
And with that as well, there seems to be an increased drive from multiple organizations within the UK to push AI forward. So in June recently, there was the announcement of an AI diagnostic fund in the NHS. And then the Royal College of Radiologists also have their own initiatives as well for really to help increase awareness and education around AI. So one of them is a registry that they've created for healthcare providers who've adopted AI to share which AI they've adopted, just so that they can show across the country where AI is being deployed. And if someone wanted to know more about it, they can actually speak to someone who's been using it and actually been hands-on with it as well. So Andy, how do you feel that the future of AI is looking within the NHS for radiology in light of the initiatives and the allocated funding for use of diagnostic AI?
I'm thrilled to see that national funding is now becoming available, because AI in the NHS, it really was a bit of a niche thing for an enthusiastic few, but it's really starting to kick off and become more of a mainstream adoption now. For a long time, it really was a case of, it seemed almost vendors chasing doctors to have a look at the system, whereas now it's coming the other way around. Doctors, clinicians are all chasing for the the AI to help with their solution, with their problems. So it's really flipped the other way, and it's really starting to take off in a big way, I think.
I think we would all be glad to hear that. We're just coming up to the end of the webinar, and I just want everyone to just have a chance to maybe say what their tips might be for anyone looking to adopt AI from their perspective. I think what you said there at the end, Andy, was actually very relevant. And I think probably from what we've seen is that for any healthcare provider who's looking to adopt AI, just make sure you really understand the why and what the actual use case is for adopting AI. And don't just adopt AI for the sake of it or as an end in itself. It's really for quality improvement. So just have an idea of what problem you're trying to solve before then looking for a solution, which might not even be AI, but just really have that problem really fleshed out, right? Like I guess that would be our experience and what we would recommend. Andy, if you want to maybe give some advice, and then we'll just go around and let everyone have a chance to speak on that as well.
Yeah, if I had 2 tips, I mean, that would be number 1 is don't do AI for AI's sake, because it will just fail. You need to pick a clinical problem specifically to target with AI and get clinician backing to support that. And the other tip I'd give is to make sure that the AI is directly integrated into your existing workflows. If you have to go outside of your current clinical workflows to access those AI results and findings, it's just not going to get used. So it has to, in an automated way almost, feed straight back into existing clinical pathways and improve them.
Mike?
That was going to be exactly my point on this one. I'm a really big in favor for radiologist quality of life. Radiologists have more images than ever to look at, more auxiliary tools to work with. So as much as you can bring it into the workflow, automatically prioritize the work list based on AI findings, or use different mechanisms to view the AI results to facilitate the work of the radiologist. Those are all very important when making a decision.
Cecile?
It will be the same, no original. So I would say that you have to check, like, as you have to start from somewhere, I would say start with something which is frequent, which is maybe tedious as well, where you really feel, or critical. So it depends on what you have to do, but this is the 3 key. I would say that if you find the 3 together, as can be, for example, the fracture, you know that it will help. So I can be the brain injuries as well. It's critical. Another thing that I would say is that check also the medical background of the algorithm. Will make it. Do they have a medical like a staff or group to help them to do that? Because more you have expert on board, better it is. And the third one, which is really also really a vendor perspective, is look like the paper that we do and in which peer group rating we are making them, like we are publishing them, because it will also give you like, okay, do they challenge themselves? Do they try to have a good methodology or whatever? And more we have a good scientific methodology, better you know that there is also a medical methodology behind the construction of the algorithms.
Thank you. And Divya?
Yeah, I think in addition to what everyone said, you're starting with a problem, but you might have more. So I think it's always good to understand if you're looking at a comprehensive portfolio, or at least a company which is building a comprehensive portfolio. Workflow integration, which has been covered a lot. Company itself, because you want the company to be stable, you want a partner in your company. And I would say customer support and training, right? It's really about, it's a journey that you're embarking on. So really understand if your peers in other trusts and other imaging networks have had a strong collaboration. So that would be my suggestion.
Yeah. Great one.
That's great advice from everyone there. And with that, I think we're coming to the close of the webinar. So I want to thank you all for your participation. If anyone wants to get in touch, then they can do so via the provided email address at the end. Thank you all for attending.